You're going
You
to like
got no choice. If you want to dock here, you gotta do all the tax forms.
them.
I'll just shoot the guy 3 times. He'll be dead.
Oh God, that's right. We just burn shit down if we don't like what's going on.
Yes.
Threaten
Maybe
us.
no tax
I
forms.
dare you.
All right, everyone ready?
No, but let's get started.
Hell yeah, that's the spirit. So, would anyone like to get an inspiration point for doing a recap of last session?
Not me.
I will try my damnedest.
You got this.
Okay. Last session, we started off with myself and Colin's character looking for culprit that took the bag. Walked. What was the city? We walked further into Westgate, tracking his wet footsteps through the bustling city. Found him, but he did not have the bag on him. So, Colin's character and mine decided to follow him. My character decided to kind of cut him off by Misty stepping in front of him and dragging him into an alleyway where more or less um, interrogated him and threatened the kid. And Colin's character showed up after a while, kind of being the good cop / neutral cop.
Mm-hmm.
The child in questioning decided to make a run for it. I cast Hunter's Mark, and Colin's character summoned a fiery creature, and we stalked the kid further into the city to what we were trying to do. I can't remember exactly. I remember
At that point, you were trying to get
splitting off.
information, I think.
Yeah. Splitting off via my character's decision. Colin's character kept following him at a decent pace. I tried to run ahead to cut him off again. We ended up meeting and converging at this crossroads where we saw a tavern that had 2 people standing out of it. I think a perception check or insight, can't remember, to see why the kid kept like looking at me and then looking at the tavern. And unintentionally / intentionally was like, fuck talking, I'm just gonna shoot this guy. Ended up shooting one of the bouncers 3 times, which is a hell of a way to kick off in combat. But air quotations, cooler heads prevail by trying to attempt to burn down the bar. Via Colin casting burning hands. Combat was waived after that real quick. And we waited for Max and Nick's characters. Oh, we didn't wait for them. We were waiting for the kids' connection that had Nick's character's bag, but was quickly interrupted by Max's and Nick characters showing up. Some tensions was there for sure between mine and Max's and 2 other characters. We got the bag. Max tried to persuade two characters to join us on the trip to a better life. Turns out the email that the kid was following had her tongue cut out, so she wasn't talking literally. He went as far as to casting a spell on her to be like, listen, you're one shot. They ended up using to do that. So we all walked in a really awkward silence the ship. Got our orders to do our jobs. Did them, and then next character had a few heart-to-hearts with self and character. I don't remember who else Nick talked to. It was myself and someone else. I just don't remember who.
It was Schrattel first, and then Asher.
Yeah, I just couldn't remember if Wilnan was the other one or not. But had a few heart-to-hearts, which is where we ended out the session with Asher and Stell talking in the crow's nest.
Yes,
Torturing way.
indeed. Mhm. Thank you for the very detailed recap. My favorite part of it was the part where you said, I unintentionally or intentionally shot the bouncer 3 times in the chest. Man, I hate it when I accidentally shoot someone 3 times.
Hey, sometimes the hand crossbow just goes off and it's pointing in the wrong direction.
Shoutouts to him for living that too.
And
I
you
know.
No
accidentally-
Oh my
shit,
God.
like that dude. He had some HP.
This man had 1 HP by the time the 3rd shot was in contact. This man saw his whole life flash before his eyes.
There was 1 teacup worth of blood left in my body.
Exactly. Oh man, okay, awesome. Yes, please add your inspiration if you haven't done so already. Yeah, so we did leave off after a conversation between Asher and Estelle in the crow's nest. After a successful day and a half ish of work on this ship, everyone was doing very good work, keeping this ship running smoothly, and are very much contributing to a speedy journey. And now, as night is falling, this is the 2nd night, I believe, as Estelle is climbing down from the crow's nest that Asher is still up in, as the rain clouds that he spotted before are starting to roll in. So, having seen the rain coming from a way off, you're very much aware, Asher, that it's about to get extra unpleasant up in the crow's nest. Night is falling, and it seems like the the crew of the ship are in the middle of a shift change, as everyone who's been working on the deck is starting to kind of crack their backs and stretch and slowly start making their way below decks, as a couple of other crew members are heading back up. As these shifts are starting to change, Asher, are you staying up in the crow's nest?
Yeah, for now.
Okay. And Estelle, as you are climbing down back to the deck of the ship where you've been working for most of the day, seeing the shifts changing, seems like a lot of people are starting to turn in. What are you up to?
Well, I'm assuming that
it's probably good form to alert the crew to the coming storm that's approaching.
Which I believe has already been done. I think we mentioned that Asher let people know last time.
Okay.
I think
In
so. They're aware what's coming. Like
Okay.
it's from what was spotted. It doesn't seem like it's a nasty storm, but it just seems like some unpleasant rain. So sails are being drawn in somewhat. Seems like the ship is going to be running on a minimum amount of stuff that could get caught in gusts. Things that are on board the deck are being lashed down just in case by the second shift that is coming up. So they know what's coming.
I think that in that case, Estelle would take a pop into the kitchen, see how things are going there.
Okay. This is after the evening meal that the crew very much enjoyed, and you had that whole conversation with Capesley afterwards, Wilman.
All right. In which case, I think Wilman would be just doing dishes at that point.
Slowly walking in, looking over at you, Wilnan. Could you use an extra pair of hands with that?
Certainly, if you're willing.
Of course. And gets to the one of the sides of you and helps with the dishes, doing that like handing off and also polishing too while you're also doing it, kind of trying to help speed things up. Dinner was really good.
I thank you. I'm glad that most people agreed.
Mm.
Are you
And-
going to continue? Oh, go ahead, sorry.
And just exchanging some pleasantries as the dishes are done. Not really pushing any topics out.
No deep insights this time.
Yeah.
Fair enough, as a lot of deep insights have been had already in these past couple of days. Speaking of which, on the deck outside, Schvatel, you are likely still in the process of finishing up your day's work as you and Marlin, who has fast become someone who's sticking close beside you in your work today, are
I'm
finishing
delighted.
lashing down some of the barrels. Go on, what were you going to say?
Was sarcastically saying, I'm delighted.
As you're finishing lashing down some barrels and crates, Marlin kind of wipes his forehead and is like, oh boy, okay, well, I think that's a good amount of work for today. Oof, time for a shift change. You did great. Like, are you interested in being a sailor long term?
Probably not, but thank you for your assessment.
He gives a little salute.
I don't
Oh,
know
Pearl,
how.
I mean, I'm just new here myself, so I'm probably not the most qualified one to give any assessments, but I mean, you seem to be doing great to me. I'm sure that the captain and the first mate will probably agree.
It is similar somewhat to tasks I have performed in the past.
Oh, really? I thought you said you'd never been on a sailing ship before.
Not one that floats on water.
Oh, right, that was the weird verbiage you used. So, like, what kind? What kind of ship were you on? As this young man is kind of like leaning closer with big curious eyes.
You see him think for a moment, and frown and say, "You are dismissed. Your shift is over."
He just kind of blinks a couple of times and this disappointed look comes over his face and it's like, oh right, yeah, yep, it is that time, isn't it? Yeah. That's your shift too, by the way, so feel free to turn in whenever, right? You have a good night. I'll see you bright and early.
The nod, and Chvatal turns to the railing of the ship and stares out into the darkening sea.
Marlin kind of looks down and walks away down into the below decks area. What are you up to next, Shavatal?
Just the I mean, Marlin doesn't seem that concerned about the storm. Does anyone else in the crew seem concerned about what's going down?
Good question. As you're seeing the remains of the day shift kind of bustling about, finishing their tasks, you're hearing some grumbling about the wet and how much more annoying it makes their job. But you also hear a couple of people mention things like, thank the gods that it's not going to be a rough storm. And someone mention, yeah, apparently it seemed like just a drizzle, so that's better. So that's the general vibe that you get. But as you're paying attention to how seriously this is being taken, you do see that the first mate, Ludler, is kind of staying on deck longer than the others and is staying towards the bow of the ship and just peering out across the horizon towards the approaching rain clouds, just in case.
Okay. And I would know that Asher was assigned to lookout duty.
Yes,
Or
yes, everyone
chose to
was
look out.
choosing duties in together. Yes.
Hmm.
You haven't seen him come down, so presumably he's still on lookout duty.
Huh. Yeah, I. This feels like what he would do. I'm going to climb up to the crow's nest.
Okay.
And I'm assuming I do find him up there.
He is indeed still up there as the wind is starting to get a little bit stronger up here. With a chill breeze, a little bit of sea spray.
This is not me seeking companionship.
That's good because that'd probably be really awkward.
And Shvaddle just sits and continues staring off into the clouds, the sea. Just, I wish to appreciate what's coming. I will not interfere with your duties.
You see him kind of like trying to bundle up as much as possible, trying to stay, relatively warm before the storm inevitably hits and everything gets soaked. I'll just ask. So you came up here because you want to enjoy the view? Understanding that right?
It's not about enjoyment, but experience.
All right, you
And
never
it's
did quite finish that conversation back at Westgate. You told me you're yes, but where do you hail from then?
that. This kind of a dismissive scoff. That's a complicated question, and one I wouldn't expect you to understand. It would be simpler to say I don't have a home. We are wanderers.
Oh, okay, so nomadic people. I've had my fair share.
The astral sea is complicated and tumultuous, and we go where we are told.
And you were told to come here and do this job.
That's also a complicated question. Yes
Let me just
and
cut to the
no.
chase. Is there anything simple about you?
Oh, I don't even understand what you mean.
Well, every time I've asked you a question, your retort is it's complicated. So I'm just asking, is there anything about you, your life, style, that's simple?
We are very different, but I have the same basic needs as someone like yourself: food, shelter, sleep. That's simple enough. You need to earn money.
For what exactly?
To survive.
I know a few people that don't earn money and survive, but
If you were alone in a strange place, things would be complicated for you.
yeah, I imagine they would be. How strange is this place to you?
When I first got here, I didn't understand your customs. The language was difficult. Your legal system, your culture. So yes, it's very strange. But
Mm,
I adapt.
Not everything is strange to you.
No, of course not.
Doesn't take a mind reader to notice at the first meeting of this group, you and Stella, is that her name? Yeah. Stayed on opposite sides and could definitely cut tension with the dullest knife ever.
You wish
Be
me to
familiar
say
to you?
something? This was obvious to me.
I'm just curious, do you know her from your past, or have you two had run-ins before?
No. She just seems unpleasant. I don't know
Feeling a
what
lot
it
of
is
people are
about
going to
it.
say the same about you.
For what it's worth, I did have a word with her in private. To the effect that we don't have to be friends, but we will depend on understanding each other if we are going to survive. Which, and you see a brief look of realization, like, oh shit. Which I suppose is what this is about too, somewhat.
Step in the right direction. Especially if we're going to be traveling on the road and potentially setting up campsites and sleeping within 5 feet of each other. Bring it pretty cozy.
See the scowl deepen at that word cozy. I won't pretend to like it, but I'm used to living in close quarters. I'm not
As
going
long
to
as we
be
can get this job
betraying
done.
you if that's what you're implying.
Oh, not me. I mean, I like knowing the group I'm traveling with sooner rather than later. And I don't like sleeping with one eye open. I'm not saying you betray me, just I don't want to be sleeping in the middle of the night and out of nowhere hear you two arguing and then You seem to have an affinity for fire, so probably burning whatever she has to the ground or her herself. Rather not wake up to that, honestly.
Comes to it, then I will try to take the fight away from where you're sleeping. You see a little bit of a
Back
sarcastic
to this
grin.
conversation.
Like,
Oh, okay.
I said it
Anyways,
before, but my specialty, despite the affinity for fire, is keeping all of you alive. Fire is life, is vibrancy, is power. And apart from destruction, one of the things that it can be channeled into is the force of life. Fire is still there.
And as you speak of the primal forces of fire and nature, both of you are quite keen-sensed. So you hear it before you see it, as you can hear the soft, rushing sound of water falling into water as the rain finally approaches. And looking out, you can see this oncoming wall, if a wall was soft, of this light drizzle as it slowly drifts over the boat. And the sea spray becomes decent-sized raindrops. Chill, but not violent. Although your clothing very quickly begins to get soaked.
Fair. Looking down, are the crew remaining on deck, like still completing duties?
Looking down, it looks like all of the faces that you'd become accustomed to over the course of the days have vacated the deck, and there are only maybe 3 crew members who are currently on deck. Ones that you'd only glimpsed in the sleeping quarters throughout the day. You get the sense that this is the skeleton crew that's in charge of keeping watch when it is nighttime. You also don't see the first mate anymore on the deck. But you do hear the creaking of ropes, and suddenly he's popping his head up above the crow's nest. Oh, so you are still up here with company. Listen, you fellas know that in the storm there's really not too much visibility up here, right? So you don't have to stay up here. You can head down and get some rest.
Understood.
God, tell me twice.
Alright, good. And I'll see both of you bright and early tomorrow. Pokes his head back down and starts to climb back to the deck.
Asher just looks at Siobhan and just says, "You enjoy whatever experience you're looking for. I'm gonna go get warm." And hops over the crow's nest and starts making his way down.
Shwada will wait until it seems like he's not immediately heading down. Maybe another 10 minutes. And then quietly makes his way down.
All right. As you both head back down to the decks to get some rest, Wilnan and Astel, as you're doing dishes in the galley, someone does pop their head in and mention that the day shift is over. Specifically to Astel, since she was working with the crew up above decks. Wilnan has kind of been free to come and go as he pleases. But it seems most people are turning in.
How's the plate situation looking like?
Well, since you're both working together, mind you, there were a lot of plates. But it's been a little while now. And since you have both worked together, they are just about done. Like, there's maybe 2 pots left that still have some stubborn stuff stuck to the metal, but aside from that, everything else has been washed, dried, and neatly stacked, as opposed to the condition that it was in when you guys first got to the ship.
Replying back. I just gonna finish these pots here, and I'll be down.
Alright, suit yourself.
These pots take extra force to get these smudges out.
That's what the steel ball is for.
Right.
With the wonderful technology of steel wool, it only takes maybe another 10-15 minutes to get the stubborn grime off of the pots. And with that, all of the work in the galley is done for the night.
With a with her right arm brushing her forehead. And that's done.
Thank you for your assistance in all this.
Of course. I take food and food cleaning very seriously.
Yes. I can only hope this, that the former cook learns from this.
Right, not to be too overbearing. That might do the opposite effect.
I know.
But hey, you already struck the stomachs of everyone else on the ship. Sooner or later, it's going to get passed around. That's how these things work. Well, I'm going to retire. You probably should too. Been a long day.
Yes. I just need to find a quiet spot.
Does Wilnan seemed troubled about something.
Maybe a little.
A reminder that
As-
player versus player insight checks are completely acceptable if both players consent.
You.
Would
So
you like
that's
to insight
obviously
to know more?
visible. Sure, I am. Estelle's very insightful. Oh man,
Mm-hmm.
Ooh!
Yeah, with a
a
17.
lot better than that. Mm-hmm.
It seems that Wilnan just kind of is a little downtrodden. Concerned about things that have passed.
As she's turned around about to leave, as you are about to find a quiet corner, stops and looks back. Would you like an ear? Sometimes it's nice to have someone to talk to.
Sometimes, sure, but I think for tonight, myself will be enough.
All right. Don't be a stranger, though. We're going to be interacting a lot more on this trip.
I'm certain we will. There'll be plenty of opportunities.
Good night. And she begins to head off.
Good night, Miss Estelle.
As you part ways, this is your second night aboard this ship, and they have allocated you all hammocks in the crew sleeping quarters that you are free to use as you wish. Except for Zahir, who gets the fancy guest cabin below decks, near the cargo hold, that they keep just in case they have important visitors. Everyone else gets hammocks, though.
Well, Wilnan's not a fan of hammocks. Hammocks aren't good for revelry.
Fair enough. So how is Wilnan handling the nighttime situation with trance state?
Wilnan's just trying to find, like, a private spot. Someplace where there's not a lot of other people.
Okay. As for private spots aboard this ship, it's a decently sized ship, but it's not huge. So it really has only the basics of the above decks area, the cargo hold, the guest cabin, and the captain's quarters, along with the sleeping area for the crew. So if you wanted a private area, really the main options would be either above decks, which not ideal when it's raining, or in a corner of the cargo hold somewhere. Amongst the crates, barrels, and sacks that are neatly and not so neatly stacked inside.
Well, is there anyone in the kitchen still?
As you poke your head in... Oh, that's right, there is the kitchen. You poke your head back into the kitchen, and no, currently there isn't anyone. So that is also an option if you'd like to sleep in your or trance in your workplace.
It's someplace alone and relatively quiet. And I won't be trancing for long anyway.
Fair enough. Also, what does Wilnan's trance state look like? Does he sit somewhere with his eyes closed? Or his eyes open? Does he lay down?
Sits with his eyes closed.
Okay. So Wilnan finds a corner of the kitchen to sit and go into his nightly trance as everyone gets some rest for the night. All right. It would be. Oh gosh. Hang on, there are campaigners outside. Give us a minute.
Those damn campaigners.
How dare they?
Also,
Hmm?
I don't like it when there's just a random roll.
Oh yeah, hell
True.
no, not. I was like getting ready to click long rest, but I will say, being in Richard's campaign has taught me like not until they say.
This is the
You
second day, right?
This is the second night, so you would have already gotten at least one long rest, but feel free to click that button again now if you wish.
I mean, I don't know how Asher spends his time. Was he a wide on the crow's nest all 24/7?
No, he went down when the first mate was like, "Hey, you guys don't have to be up here."
Okay.
Okay. So. As the night is beginning to pass, you can all feel free to click the long rest button. But, Wilnan,
Mm-hmm.
toward the end of your trance state, something disturbs you. Like a small sound in your head.
Mm-hmm.
As you come back to consciousness. Are you keeping your eyes closed, opening them, physically reacting, not physically reacting?
I think I would open my eyes to kind of see.
Okay. You open your eyes, and the kitchen, I'm assuming, is dark, assuming that you extinguished the torches when you left, perhaps?
That would be correct.
Mm-hmm. It's dark, except for a small, very faint light coming from a candle. And from where you sit, you can see that it is in the hand of an elderly tiefling man, as Capesley seems to have come back into the kitchen, being very quiet, and is just kind of tiptoeing around, looking for something.
I'll just watch him to see what he's doing.
As you keep eyes on Capesley as he's in here, I'm assuming that this is the same place that you did your trance state the first night?
The first night I actually probably would have done it above deck.
Oh, right. Okay. Then he doesn't seem to notice your presence until he turns a corner around the little central aisle that has counter space and stuff, and glances over at you, does spot that your eyes are open, and half jumps out of his skin.
Calm yourself, Kingsley.
Oh. Capesley, you damn upstart! What the hells are you doing in here? Are you just setting up camp in my workspace now? You think this is where you're living for the rest of your life?
I'm saying calm yourself, for there are others sleeping, and no. I merely prefer a bit of private space for my trance.
He squints at you. Roll an insight check if you'd like.
Sure. Uh, 13.
You know, it's no secret that Capesley does not like you at all.
Right.
So of course there's that. But there's also a small element of you being here in this moment has put an especially large damper on his night. He just kind of shakes his head at you, stares at you for another few seconds, grumbles, and goes back to looking through cabinets as he opens a couple. Now, don't let me disturb your beauty sleep. Gods know you need it. Just getting something real quick, and then I'll be out of your luscious locks.
Do you need a hand searching for whatever you're looking for?
I
have to
know
reorganize.
exactly where everything is in my galley. Until losers like you come in here and decide to organize everything, as he makes air quotes around organize.
My apologies. My methods of cooking require a bit more counter space.
Amateur, grumbles under his breath as he opens a cupboard and is like, aha! And he just pulls out a small linen sack, closes the cupboard back up, looks over at you. Don't get too comfy, friend. But you have a nice night, yeah? As the campaigners return. He huffily sticks the sack into his belt, straightens himself up as much as his slightly bent back will allow, and storms out. Quietly. You notice that he extinguishes the candle before he leaves the kitchen. This was toward the end of your trance, but there's still a solid half hour that you should normally be getting. What do you do?
admittedly curious.
I will say that you will not get the effects of a long rest unless you go back into trance state. But you can do that if you choose. You, at this point, as it's the second night, I think you have a day and a half. Wait, no. Yeah. No? A day. You have a day left of travel tomorrow before you reach Hlath.
I think I will continue my revelry, but I will look to my bag and ask that they go check on him to see if they are up to anything or need anything.
Okay. As you look to your bag in the middle of the night, with no one else around to see, what do you say?
Check on Capesley for me, would you? I'm curious if just want to be sure.
As a grumbling sound is heard distinctly from inside the bag. And at this, no head pops out at this point. There's just some shifting around in there. And in your mind you hear, now do I have to? Like, right now? I was in the middle of a really nice nap.
You and I both know you don't actually need sleep.
I mean, I don't need sleep, but people don't need delicious cupcakes, and they still eat delicious cupcakes. Alright, fine.
Do you want a delicious cupcake?
There's a long silence. And then, out of the bag, this quite chubby, scaly green head pokes out with half-lidded, exasperated-looking eyes. Yeah?
Alright. I will get something for you, but you must go check on Capesley very quickly. You are losing them.
Alright, fine, jeez. As out of the bag crawls a pudgy-looking drake. With yellow-green scales and a very disheveled-looking row of spines along his back. Wings that look a little too small to support his body. Alright, here I go, but I'm gonna remember that cupcake, alright?
Of course. And remember, discretion is preferred.
Yeah. And with that, the drake vanishes. But knowing that he's still there, you can hear some very faint pitter-patter of footsteps across the boards of the galley as he follows after Capesley. And for this reason. Oh, by the way, are you just waiting for Zell to report back to you, or are you looking through the senses?
If I paid attention, would that interrupt my reverie as well?
Good point. Let me look up the reverie real quick. Give me just a minute to get back to you on that.
Well, specifically, the question is whether or not it'll interrupt long rest, which I believe you can interrupt long rest with activities that aren't extraneous. Because, like like for when we interrupt long rest with watches and stuff like that. So I guess, would it count as a watch if I watched through their eyes?
I guess it's a similar form of concentration, like concentrating on a spell. So I guess that would be somewhat strenuous. So yes, I suppose it would interrupt your long rest.
In that case, I will simply just wait to hear back from him.
Okay. You return to your trance. And you didn't give Zell a time frame for when he should come back and report, did you?
I don't think I did. I think just, keep an eye on him and let me know what he's up to.
Okay. Let's see. You have Stell's stat sheet, don't you?
I do.
Could you kindly roll me a stealth check with advantage? Okay. All right. Wilnan, as you return to your trance for the last 30 minutes, it's peaceful. And your rest in that moment is not interrupted. However, about 20 minutes later, Shabatl, you, I assume, have taken up one of the hammocks?
That's right.
Okay. I shouldn't have asked everyone to click the long rest button, but there was another long rest in between, so it shouldn't really affect anything.
This is fine.
This is fine. Your rest is interrupted as your keen ears, even in the depths of unconsciousness, pick up some scuffling sounds and a very quiet curse under the breath from very, very close to you. It sounds like it's coming from right next to you. Do you pay this any mind in this public sleeping quarters?
I do.
Mm-hmm.
I was quickly trying to see if I had a dagger in my inventory, but I don't. So instead, I will just tense up, eyes open, and try to take in the scene around me without seeming like I have heard.
Okay. Well, as you quietly open your eyes and take in the scene around you, you see all of the crewmates in the sleeping quarters in varying states of sleep, snoring. But right next to you, in between the aisles of hammocks, there's an old tiefling man who you do recognize as the ship's regular cook, who is currently hunched over right beneath your hammock to one side, luckily in the direction you are facing. And you can't really make out from this angle what he's doing, but you can see his hunched over back and the points of his horns poking up above the edge of the hammock where you're looking. And there's a quiet scuffling sound
Quiet
from beneath
ruffling
you.
sound.
Mhm.
Okay. So thinking if there is any possible innocent explanation for this, is his bunk anywhere near where he's standing?
From what you recall, Capesley is lucky enough or privileged enough to have one of the... So the way this crew quarters is set up is there's all the hammocks in the center, but around the edges of the room are these actual wooden cots that take up the edges of the space. Seems like there's an order of seniority for which crew members get the cots and which ones get the hammocks. Capesley normally has a cot at the edge of the room, which is definitely not in the middle where he's at right now. By the way, totally unrelated question, where do you keep your stuff?
If I recall, I said that I left my bag underneath the hammock where I was sleeping.
Yeah, okay. That's all, just a question.
Just a question.
Mm-hmm. So, do you let this pass, or are you doing something?
I'm doing something. I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do. Probably shouldn't involve burning him alive.
How did I know that that was one of the options on the table? There are two kinds of people in this world.
Okay. We're in the dark, correct? Kind of?
Correct. Mm-hmm. You get
Yeah.
the sense that that might have been the reason behind the quiet curse that was uttered.
Let's be dumb. Because he looks like he's doing something shady as shit.
Mm. Mind you, all of this has happened in the space of like 30 seconds that you notice this and
Yes.
have been observing.
Yeah. Oh, do I just talk or do I tackle him? He doesn't seem all that valuable or formidable. I'm gonna say I would like to try to roll out of my bunk and tackle him on my way to the ground.
Okay. Roll me. Oh boy. Yeah, your choice of athletics or acrobatics, I would say probably.
Okay.
Or would it be an attack roll? No, let's just stick with that for now.
Okay. I'll give you an athletics. Sure.
Holy shit. uh, do you have any care in the moment for like discretion? Are you trying to avoid waking people up or not?
Sure, yeah, if I can avoid waking others up and just handle this myself.
Okay. Well, in that space of 30 seconds in which you notice this happening, just smoothly and adeptly, almost like someone who's done something like this before, you, in one motion, swiftly roll off of your hammock and directly onto the older man's back as you kind of put him in a quick headlock as you crash to the ground on top of him, but in such a way that you don't really hit the wood, you just hit the flesh of this man who
Ooh.
crumples to the ground under you with your arm over his mouth with a little
My tolerance for tomfoolery is low. And I do a little produce flame and hold it very close to his cheek from his back. Like, what were you doing?
You see the man's eye very wide with the flame reflected in it as he's staring at your hand and then back up into your face. Do you allow him to speak?
Sure.
Okay. As you remove your arm from his mouth, he makes a little pained sound, takes a breath, and then screams at the top of his lungs. Ah, somebody help me! This ruffian's got me pinned! And immediately there's rustling all around you in the crew's quarters.
Okay.
Asher. Astel, yes.
Yeah, I'm continuing to hold him pinned.
What's going on?
This old man
Immediately
was
light a candle.
sneaking around. What were you doing?
As everyone, it's still dark, mind you, but the small flame that is currently cupped in Shavatal's palm is giving off enough light for you to see silhouetted in the dark the figure of Shavatal just in a headlock with this older tiefling man holding the flame up to his face, where it is very visible how frightened he is. You can threaten me all you want, Sonny. It won't change the fact that I saw what I saw.
And what's all this? Why
What
do
does
you
he have
have
in his
him?
hand? he was rummaging around in things that aren't his.
Looking down, besides the chokehold and the flame being put close to this man's face, what's next to these two?
Well, beside the two on the floor, as the rest of the crew have now wakened and begun to drag themselves out of their hammocks, grumbling, looking at what's going on. Beside them on the floor, you see Chavatal's bag. Roll me your choice of a perception check or a history check.
Both are terrible. Let's go. Let's do history.
Damn!
Okay, how about y'all calm the hell down?
Yeah, everybody's rolling hot tonight.
Maybe a little bit touchy about things being taken and possessions.
They say old man has to die.
Astel, your recent experiences with your own belongings have given you a keen carefulness and insight about people's things, and you have since kept a much closer eye on people's possessions. So you know exactly what Chavatal's bag normally looks like. You remember exactly the position that you saw him drop that bag in beneath his hammock. And, you know, it doesn't actually look like it's been disturbed. But you also see something next to it that you don't recall being there at all, which is a small linen sack that seems pretty overfull. Has a lot of stuff in it. You don't recall that being among his belongings before. And with that very high roll, you're absolutely certain that that was not something that you've seen Chavatal with at any point. But it is there leaning up against his bag as if it is his.
Capesley.
Yeah, that's my name. Somebody get this brute off of me. Where's the camaraderie of this crew, huh? As the other teammates are like.
takes a knee and maybe not too tight of a hold. That's you might actually get really bruised up, but there's like a firm hand on his shoulder. Calm down. I just need to ask you something.
Yeah? Though I got a lot to ask myself.
What are you doing with that linen bag next to Chavatal's things? I know that's not his. And the arm kind of tightens on his shoulder just a little bit. Please. I don't like getting into trouble. And we still have a whole extra day. Capesley.
Intimidation? Okay. You see the man's eyes widen even further. And his face go a significantly paler shade of mauve. And the crew members who are now crowding around are looking back and forth between your faces with raised eyebrows. And Capesley just stares at you for a second and then says, why are you asking me? Huh? That's exactly what What I want to know, I'm the one who saw this brute sneaking around.
Confess. Astel uses command. Make a wisdom save.
Oh! Holy shit! Oh, okay, let's see. Where's the wisdom? Oh, it's just there's no bonus. He's a commoner. Okay, let's do this.
Just a dice roll. That fails with my DC being a 13.
As Estelle speaks the single word, it isn't spoken in a very loud voice, but nonetheless, it rings through the entire crew's quarters with weight and depth to it. And upon the word being said, this man's face kind of goes slack for a moment. And almost against his will, he says, I put it there with stuff from the cargo hold so you lot would get thrown out. And then his face regains its composure and gets much paler.
There's just this like sigh, almost slight bit of disappointment in her voice.
Truly pathetic.
As shoving through the crowd of crew members comes the first mate, Ludler, who upon hearing this is just shaking his head with his face furious. I'm sorry. You want to run that by me again, old man? Capesley just kind of turns his head painfully in Chivatel and Astell's grasp. It's like, who are you calling old man? I'll have you treat me with a little more respect as one of the old friends of the captain, young man. And Ludler just shakes his head and is like, oh, I think we're long past that at this point. I don't care if you're a friend of the king of Chondath. You're walking around, framing innocent guests on our ship, stealing our supplies. Because of a petty grudge? No, that's it was a lie. This lady is some kind of witch. She made me say stuff that's not true. I saw it. I saw him take the stuff.
Astel turns to the first mate. I come from a strict order, and I cannot see let any wrongdoings like this go by. My comrade here did not have that linen sack there. And as for Capesley, he did confess what he meant to say. I can tell that there's some animosity between him and our current cook. I think he feels very threatened.
Ludler kind of shakes his head a little bit at this. Threatened, huh? Yeah, can't imagine why, with the shit job he's been doing on this ship for as long as I've known the man, and all the security he's felt being the captain's good old buddy in spite of all that. As you feel Capesley kind of shrinking a little bit in on himself beneath you both with every word. At this point, you hear a young, cracking voice pipe up, which is Marlin's. And he says, "Well, just for the record, if it's in question, if he's telling the truth or not," he, points over at Chivatel. "I mean, we've only known these people for a couple days, but I've been working with this man the whole time, and I can tell you, he's nothing if not honest. He's an interesting character, but I don't think he'd lie if he did something like that." Ludler is not breaking eye contact with Capesley and is like, No, I know the character of, if not our new guests, at least the people who've been working under me." He glances over at Chivatel and Estelle, and back to Chivatel. "So sorry for the inconvenience, and for disturbing your rest. You've been a welcome addition to this crew, all of you, for the short time that you've been here." Jabs his head in the direction of the guy under him. We'll take care of this guy. Don't pay it any mind. You can go back to getting your rest. And if you wouldn't mind handing over this sad sack so we can deal with them, huh?" So he kind of holds his hand out towards Capesley.
Yeah, Chivatel will release the headlock, but continue having the flame in his hand. He's not going anywhere. Land is pretty far.
Damn straight, as Ludler kind of bends down, grabs this man by one of his horns, and unceremoniously yanks him to his feet while he's clutching his head. That's not the horns, not the horns. Right. Anyway. Oh, could you pass me that too? Gesturing with one foot towards the sack.
Of course. And Estelle goes and picks up the sack, hands it over.
Okay. As you pick up the sack and hand it over, you catch a glimpse inside, and indeed it looks like there are many things that were this ship's cargo stuffed into this small little sack, including little bags of the spices that the cargo hold had contained, and even a couple of planks of the rare timbers and lumbers that are a trade specialty of Chondath. As Ludler takes it, glances inside, shakes his head, and scowls down at Capesley. Alright. We're just gonna go pay the captain a little visit. Sure won't be happy to be woken up at this hour, but that's not my problem. And then you're gonna put this stuff back. And then we'll decide what to do with you. How's that sound? So he just starts yanking the man out of the crew quarters, leaving you with the rest of the crew.
Estelle turns back to Chivatel. I'm glad that we got that resolved in a timely manner.
Yes. Your commitment to a just solution is admirable. Looking around the circle of crew, do I notice anybody have a look of sympathy for Capesley.
Make an insight check.
Yes, please.
Looking around at the faces all around you, a lot of them look half asleep at this point, as again, this is the middle of the night that this all went down very quickly. But for the most part, you see amusement. You see a couple of faces of like, they look like they might be a little happy about this, if anything. But can't really pinpoint anything beyond that on specific faces. You do both get a couple of nods of respect as the crew start going back to their hammocks.
Look to Astel to see if she has anything else to say.
After back at the port, and also your general character, I wasn't really buying anything that he was saying. Thanks for not burning the ship down.
I'll lean in closer, like, if I wanted to take something from these. But sometimes it's
You
better.
cut out there.
Yeah,
Sorry,
you
yeah.
cut out after from these.
Yeah. If I wanted to take something from these people, I would take it and not bother with the sneaking. But there's value in cooperation sometimes.
It's a bit surprising to hear that coming from a Gith, but it's refreshing.
We'll kind of metaphorically look out towards the sea, even though we're below decks. Like, land's a long way off. Sometimes you have to trust your crew.
Estelle gives a
And-
simple nod to that.
Yeah. And he's going to close his fist to snuff out the flame and climb back up in the hammock. Close his eyes.
Good night, everyone. As Estelle gets back into her hammock.
Okay. As you all return to rest, 10 minutes later, Wilman, you come out of your reverie, and you see Zell curled up beside you, watching you idly, waiting for you to be done.
Did nothing of port happen, or were you just waiting?
No, I was just waiting. I mean, I don't know about you, but I get pretty grumpy when people wake me up, so some of us have some manners here.
I'm surprised you didn't take the opportunity for a tit for tat.
Some of us gotta be the bigger person, you know? Anyway, that guy tried to frame the bunch you've been running with for stealing to get you thrown off the ship.
Really?
Uh-huh. It was really funny. It didn't go very well.
I would imagine not. Is he hurt?
I mean, his pride, definitely. I mean, the green guy kind of tackled him to the ground and held a fire next to his face. So, maybe not in tip-top shape.
And where is he now?
Sounds like he's getting an earful from the captain guy.
I see. Willen will stand up.
So, you notice if there's any, flour and sugar and stuff around here in this kitchen?
I will keep an eye out. If I can't make it here on the ship, I will look into it when we make landfall. Thank you, Zell.
Zell's eyes narrow slightly, and you hear, "I'll remember," as he slowly crawls back into your bag.
And Willen will make his way to the captain's quarters.
Okay. As you head over to the captain's quarters, even before you reach the door, mind you, you have to cross the cargo hold to reach the captain's quarters. In the dark of the cargo hold, you can see the faint line of light coming from beneath the captain's door. And you can hear raised voices long before you make it anywhere near.
All right. Can I hear what they're talking about?
Yeah, you don't have to roll perception for that. They're being very loud. It seems like the majority of the raised voices are coming from the first mate, Ludler. And some high wheedling whining from Capesley himself, as they're arguing about what just transpired. The essence of it is Ludler is reporting everything that just happened and saying that this has to be the last straw. Doesn't care how good of a friend Capesley was in the past. He's just a horrible person and is not a good presence to have aboard this ship. Capesley is trying to appeal to the captain's relationship with him in the past, saying that he's the reason why the captain even wound up with this vessel. And, you know, these people are bad news, and it's for the best anyway. Argument is proceeding in that fashion. You're not hearing a whole lot from the captain at the moment.
Willen will knock on the door.
Voices fall silent for a moment, and then you hear the captain's voice. Yes, who is it?
Willen, Captain.
You hear a loud scoff in Capesley's voice, and there's a short pause before the captain says, "All right, please come in if you wish."
Willen will enter.
As you see the captain's quarters, this cozy but humble space, with the captain currently sitting on his bed, as Ludler is still holding on to Capesley by the horn before him. Everyone turns to look at you, Capesley just absolutely glowering with pure hatred in his eyes.
Evening, Captain. I apologize for my part in the ruckus tonight.
Captain Westall looks like he's going to say something in response to that before Ludler kind of cuts him off and glances back at you and is like, "You have nothing to apologize for, all right? Don't try taking the blame for this sorry jerk," shaking around Capesley by the horn. "Ah! I've been seeing how you've been interacting with people aboard this ship, this one included." He glances over at the captain, points one thumb behind him towards you. "This guy's been nothing but polite ever since he got here. Even tried to give some tips, I heard. So don't even try pinning any of this on our visitors. It's all this one." The captain is quiet and just kind of sighs and shakes his head. Yes, You know I keep an ear to the ground in regards to my crew and how they're feeling about any particular issue at any particular time. He looks over at Wilman. "You're an interesting bunch. But I have heard only positive things about all of you since you got here. Except from..." Glances over at Capesley. "You, Mr. Capesley." He looks back at you, Wilman.
Yes. I came because I want to once again extend the offer that I made to Capesley.
Offer? Captain looks over towards Capesley expectantly, who is just staring at you, flabbergasted with rage.
I wish to once again offer to Capesley some insight into how I cook. Lessons, if you will.
Roll me a persuasion check.
Yeehaw, the train doesn't stop, never stops.
Oh
Natural
my
train,
God.
here we go.
Holy
Let's
shit!
go!
What the fuck is happening? Well, it's a good thing that you hit that nat 20 because the DC was very high.
I bet it was.
As you make this offer, you see this older tiefling man's face just go into absolute gymnastics of various emotions.
Mhm.
Eventually settling on this kind of put out, downtrodden expression with a bit of nerve suddenly about the situation that he's found himself in, as he's glancing back and forth between the captain and Ludler, who at this point both seem to have had enough of his shit. And he glances back at you like someone grasping onto a lifeboat. And he says, you know, that's mighty generous of you, young man.
Don't
In
call
light
me
of...
young.
all right. You look young, but...
Thank you, but I am not.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Maybe I've been a little as he feels the grip tighten on his horn as Ludler is glaring down at him. I've been very unreasonable. Yes, is what I meant to say. I'm glancing over at everyone. I'm so sorry. I don't know what came over me. It's been a rough time in my life, and maybe this was the wake-up call that I needed to, put me back on a better path. As he glances back towards Wilnan. If you don't mind, I would be interested in these lessons, and then I hope I can do an even better job at my work aboard this ship that I'm, glancing at the captain, very grateful to have a place on.
Yes, as I understand it, the issue that arose tonight, the source of which was jealousy. If Capesley here had the skills needed to not be threatened by a small part-time chef as myself, then I think that the situation like this won't arise again.
You see the older man twitch a little bit at these semi-veiled insults, whether they were intended that way or not. But he holds his tongue, and he just kind of blinks over at the captain and waits. And the captain sighs and rubs the bridge of his nose and just waves a hand and says, All right. Since it looks like you two are settling this amicably between each other, you may have your lessons with only a strict warning, glancing over at Capesley, that no matter how grateful I am for our friendship over the years, Mr. Capesley, if there is another incident like this, next time you will be dropped off at the nearest port, regardless of where we are at the time. Do you understand? Capesley kind of nods furiously, while Ludler has a sour expression on his face. Oh, yes, of course, yes. That's a very kind conclusion. Thank you, old friend. Okay. And with that, I think we can all go back to getting some well-earned rest. Don't you? Looks up at Ludler, who reluctantly nods. All right. Dismissed. Glancing over at Wilnan, sorry again for the trouble. Appreciate your help training our cook.
Of course. It is my pleasure, actually.
As Ludler sighs and lets go of Capesley's horn, gives a shrug to you as he passes by, glances over his shoulder and does an I'm watching you gesture towards Capesley before he makes his way back to the crew quarters. Capesley also hurries to exit the captain's quarters.
Capesley, before you leave,
Hmm.
as I only have the one day to educate you, we will need to start early. So please be in the kitchen at the crack of dawn. I will have things prepared for you.
Looks like the man has a sour taste in his mouth at these words, but he just kind of... his mouth works for a second, and then closes, and then he just nods gruffly and shuffles away.
Turn back to the captain. I do apologize for shaking things up around here, though. That is my responsibility, in a way.
Captain Westall is quiet for a moment. And he gives another sigh. You know, to be honest, maybe this sort of shakeup was a blessing in disguise. I'm not blind to the fact that there's been a lot of discontent in my crew about Mr. Capesley for some time now, so maybe you can help him, well, improve himself a little bit. So, don't worry about it too much.
I will do what I can. Try to get some rest, Captain.
I'll do what I can too.
And will leave and return to the kitchen.
Okay.
And we'll begin preparing it for a day of lessons.
All right. As you go about setting up the training arc of the galley cook, the rest of the night passes peacefully. As we roll into our last day of the voyage, as everyone slowly, grumpily in a lot of cases after being woken in the middle of the night, comes back to consciousness. This morning, it seems like the rain has dwindled down to a faint drizzle. And you can see the clouds in the distance clearing. So you know that it's only temporary. Wilman,
Yes?
please make a roll for me to determine how successful your training session with Capesley is on this last day of your journey. And you can choose anything to roll as long as you can justify why you're using it.
Well, I do have one other thing to ask about that. I would like to, in the morning, ask Estelle if they'd be willing to help me in this endeavor.
Sure, well, man. I think it would be a horrible shame to not follow up on this. Besides, even if we leave the ship tomorrow, there might be more problems with Mr. Capesley. Don't worry, I'm a good coach. And does kind of like the little like fist clenched, kind of like going up, kind of like the can-do attitude.
That being said, you can each make a roll of your choosing, or one of you can make a roll with advantage.
I mean, the question is, what would that role look like? If you want, Estelle can just be there to help you, Wilnan. Or maybe help with getting Yeah, Gabesley to actually listen because he seems pretty stubborn.
Yes, that's what I was thinking as well.
Yeah, I think Estelle will try to coax Capesley into actually taking these lessons seriously. Not so much intimidation, but maybe persuasion of the fact that his livelihood and everything that he's known is going to be thrown down into a gutter, and he's going to be on the streets of the nearest port in
Ooh,
the kindest
boy.
way possible. Just just this overbearing weight of responsibility and also dread.
Ah, yes, nothing like using some good old fashioned existential dread to motivate people. I will allow that to be a persuasion check, even though it sounds pretty damn intimidating to me.
With kindness.
With kindness.
You got that?
Okay. We've got a damn good roll from that one. Well then, how about you? What are you rolling?
I'm roll the cooking.
That makes sense.
That's
Goddamn.
Damn cooking. That's some damn good cooking.
Whew. Okay. Capesley, though he did show up at the crack of dawn as requested, looks like he'd rather be anywhere else in the whole world. But with Estelle's super encouraging pep talk that leaves his face drawn and nervous and makes him look with new eyes upon this opportunity that he's been handed to fix things before they become catastrophic for his life, he does pay attention to Wilman's lessons. And Wilman, with his cooking expertise, is able to break things down into easy to digest steps that Capesley is able to follow along with every step of the way. What do you choose to cook with Capesley for this training meal?
I think I would want something that would be easily accessible and easily modified. So I think a nice thing of fried rice.
Mmm. Okay.
Because like essentially Willen is wanting to impart some general knowledge of like, so you have a particularly bland food, rice, but can be easily made into like a delicious food through some very simple adjustments. A little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, 1 egg, just to kind of throw it in there and give it a little bit more.
Okay. As you impart the basics of spicing up plain ingredients and making even the most humble of foods something that people can genuinely enjoy, you see Capesley's expression throughout this becoming gradually less grumpy and a little bit more interested and even a little excited at times, as he starts mentioning ways that he feels like he could apply these techniques to other dishes as well. And when you're finally done with your very large helping of fried rice for the entirety of the crew, and you make your taste test, you see Capesley's expression become purely delighted for the first time since you've met him, as he tastes what you've all created together. Slowly removes the spoon from his mouth and looks between Wilman and Estelle. You know? That's pretty damn good. Thank you. This is, I gotta say, this is probably the first time that I've remembered what it's like to have a good time cooking and tasting the results of it in a while. Guess I kind of forgot. Some cook.
Sometimes we lose ourselves. We just have to be willing to listen to people who want to help.
And it's even better because it's all up from here.
Yeah,
Keep
I guess
striving.
it is.
Keep striving, Capesley.
Slowly nods, and then gives you both a tentative clap on the back. Thank you, fellas. Sorry about all that. That was a bit uncalled for, I guess.
It most
You're
certainly
all right.
was. And honestly, rather bold after I caught you taking the bag out of the kitchen.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I was gonna plant it on you. I didn't realize that you were a freak who just sits there with his eyes open all night. No offense.
I take it you haven't known many elves then.
Nah, I can't say I have. Well, shall we get this served up?
Yes, let's
Let's
serve
plate it up. Starts grabbing a handful of plates and bringing it, setting it up to the crew.
Okay. As halfway through the day, everyone is served a very delicious fried rice lunch. As the crew very much appreciates it, and Ludler in particular seems almost in a state of disbelief that Capesley was at all involved in its making. Is there anything else that the group would like to do or get around to on your last half of the last day's voyage?
I mean, after all said and done, Estelle is just helping do the dishes.
Okay. Capesley's also helping and has been a much more active helper in the kitchen ever since this lesson began. And with much more positive vibes all around. The last leg of your ocean journey continues until Asher, from your place up in the crow's nest, you see approaching the shores of Chondath, and particularly an imposing walled city right on the coast with these massive stone piers jutting out into the harbor. And you hear from below, "All right, we're approaching Voth. Make ready to dock." As you finally approach the next leg of your journey. Are we past our cutoff point? I keep losing track of when that is.
It's currently 10 p.m. for me. Troy, how are you holding up?
I'm good. I think cutoff is like in roughly like 49 minutes.
Okay. 49 minutes. Why
That's to be
don't we end our session here for tonight, as this seems like a better cutoff point than we're going to get 49 more minutes in? Is that okay, or do you want to keep going?
So we crashing to Schwattel, kicking Capesy off the deck into the ocean.
I
Smash
mean,
cut.
so at lunch, Chvatal would have been surprised to still see Capesley on the ship. But no, that's the captain's decision.
Chain of command is chain of command.
Mhm. I think he
Okay.
probably would have also whispered to Wilnan, asking like, "Which of this food did you make, and which did he make?"
It was a collective effort.
I roll.
You have my word. It's not. It is good.
Here's an extra big helping. Do you want the regular
There-
fork or do you want the baby one?
Staring at Astel, trying to figure out if she's joking.
You want to do an insight check?
Yes.
Disadvantage
Disadvantage?
for
Okay.
cultural differences.
Let's do disadvantage.
Still pretty good.
Take that.
Still pretty good. Yeah, she is making a big joke here. Maybe it's definitely not malicious at this point. It's more of a maybe a jovial little jab at the fact that you're not really well accustomed to customs here.
Throttle will just grab a regular sized fork and walk away.
Just a little snicker.
You also notice that gets a little distance away and takes a tentative mouthful, and then is just shoveling it into his mouth. But that would have been his usual attitude towards food, despite his bad mouthing all food that he's seen here.
I will say, if there was a decent amount of fried rice, SL would have had a extra large portion as well.
Luckily, there
she's
is an abundance.
And she is thoroughly enjoying.
And glancing around, you see Capesley kind of beaming as he looks around at the faces of people genuinely enjoying this food that he helped make. As he probably hasn't seen happy faces at the table for a very long time. And with the conclusion of Capesley the grouchy old tiefling cook's character development arc, that is where we will end tonight's session as you approach a fresh new start with a positive and hopeful attitude.